Hello, so this is just a quick personal entry on how I felt I personally contributed to the filming and shooting of our AS Media production titled Hunter. Now, for a start, I felt that even though me and Dave did share responsibilities of camera work, I'd say in 70% of the shots that were filmed, Dave was actually acting in these, which meant obviously for convenience and efficiency, there will be not much point in Dave doing the camera work, making sure the shots were in focus, for example, positioning, angles. If Dave was to do that and try and act at the same time, it would make it a bit. It would be a lot harder for him to do that, and obviously I'd be sat there doing nothing. So, but however, I did feel the need to allow Dave to have his own filming parts in it, so I he had something to talk about as well, and he could contribute, so we could contribute evenly. So in the same way, whilst I was the main actor in the scene, Dave would film this. So we both shared the same roles, just at different times, which actually really helped us because obviously having our own separate roles allowed us to focus on one thing. So whilst Dave was filming or whilst Dave was acting, he didn't have to worry about, you know, if he was in shot or not, if I could direct him and tell him exactly where he needed to be, what he needed to do, if the actions were okay. So if I wanted him to do something else, I would have to direct him and say, you just need to move a little bit to the left, or you need to do this a bit quicker or a bit slower. If you can come a bit closer for the focus, for example, like in one shot, which we need to refilm, there's quite a lot of noise, which I didn't spot at the time because it was very dark in the garage and you need to blow it up on a big screen to be able to see this noise. But so next time I'll definitely make sure, even though I did check back on each of the clips that we filmed at the time, I would definitely take more time and care in observing each and every clip before we decide to stop filming, before we decide to stop filming, just to make sure they are 100%. But I'd say as for 70% of the time, I'd say I was my main role was director and the working of the camera, because obviously Dave was acting in the majority of it. So I took the responsibility of most of the shots, even though we did plan a lot of them in the storyboard. Some of them ended up being just impossible because of the amount of space we had. So I found myself looking at the storyboard and having to compromise a lot because of the space. So obviously we had an over-the-shoulder shot, which was looking down, so a high-angled over-the-shoulder shot. Looking at Dave reading a letter or putting something into a letter or an envelope even. And whilst doing this shot, the camera became very unstable because with a high shot, obviously you need the tripod to be longer. And since we didn't have enough room in the garage on the floor because of all the mise-en-scene we needed to make the shot look effective, we had to close the tripod up so the legs were closer apart and we could get it taller without having all the space on the ground. But by doing this, it created literally any single movement in the garage pretty much caused the camera to move. So I did try and eliminate this as much as possible, and I think I did well. I decided that just in case we would use any optical image stabilization which is built onto the camera anyway, but we didn't find any problems, but it was just a concern of mine that halfway through the shot the camera would just sort of, you know, move, and that obviously wasn't effective. So I had to worry about that whilst I was filming. Another thing was the fact that since obviously in most of the shots in the beginning, because I filmed the introduction of the main part of the introduction because Dave was acting in it, lighting, I was pretty much responsible for lighting, even though I did show Dave the clips after I'd filmed them just to make sure he liked them and he felt there wasn't anything we could improve on. The initial sort of part of getting the lighting right was mainly down to me. We did set it up together. However, obviously Dave couldn't see all the shots while he was acting them. And if we film one shot with that amount of light, we had to try and keep it at the same level for consistency. So there was no good having it dim at the start and then deciding actually we need more candles and adding candles, because obviously is in terms of mise-en-scene, candles would just appear out of nowhere and the light would just get brighter in the middle of the introduction. So I was mainly responsible for the initial whole mise-en-scene idea, and since it was my garage, I did set it up beforehand just to make sure there was no serious dangers with the light, because we use candles for the light, and I felt after completing our risk assessment, I felt it was necessary just to go down there and make sure that there were suitable places to place the candles. Otherwise, obviously, a lot of candles in a cramped up garage, it could potentially be very dangerous. So I decided to go down, just have a quick browse, a quick check to make sure everything was okay, and start thinking of ideas as to where we can put the candles, which you'll be able to see in my test footage further down on my blog. But yeah, I also created the introductory music for the sequence where we have our production logo, our production company logo, which is also on another video. I had the responsibility of looking after the equipment, and we're now currently in the editing stage, and I downloaded the music at home, even though me and Dave did share the responsibility of choosing that music. Obviously, I didn't want to go and choose something that he might have agreed with. In fact, we did have a little sort of discussion as to whether or not, as to which one of the clips that we had that we should use. But I found that, again, we both are doing editing, but I feel that I probably am doing the majority of it. Basically, Dave put most of the clips together on the timeline, and we're going through it at the moment, just fine-tuning it, making sure everything is spot on as it should be, and without any improvements. So, for example, one shot of where the hammer gets taken away, just literally just clipping that down by an extra 0.3 seconds just seems to make all that little difference in editing and to the final product. I do also feel that I contributed quite majorly to the technical aspects of the filming. We both tried to use a vast range of shots in the parts where each of us was filming, just to add diversity to the range of shots used, which just makes film that little bit more exciting. But the shots I tried we tried a moving shot, where it was basically tracking down a list of names on the board. Obviously, even though we did have the fluid head tripod to our use at the time, it was still quite difficult to take the shot. Obviously, because any slight shake of the hands or any sudden movements or even the slightest bit of jerk whilst you're moving the camera down the shot would basically completely ruin it altogether, in the fact that you just get a lot of camera shake. So I contributed with those kind of shots. I tried a pull focus shot, and we did another moving shot where it was a tracking shot again of the tape moving from Dave's hands from the table up to his face. So I had to follow the tape being pulled up to his face with the camera. That was quite a hard shot to film. We did that in several takes, but I think it went effectively, and my contributions in that aspect worked really well after putting them all together for our draft production, or draft version that we've just completed now. So I think that's about it. Yeah, that was just a quick personal entry into my contributions to the production. Thank you.